stipulation.
And you know, in Shelter from the Storm, or Spay Me, recognized several years ago just the need that was out there, because there are so many people that, you know, it is a cost factor. They want to have it done. It's not that they're, you know, that they don't. It's just that they can't afford to do it. And I think we should point out as well, certainly to the veterinarian clinics in the area and so on and so forth. These people aren't necessarily people that are going to go to a traditional vet and have this surgery done, because they can't afford to. Right. So these are for folks that just, you know, really want to do it, but just really can't from a cost factor. The other thing is that the Spay Me clinic, if you choose to, you can have pain meds. Obviously, there's an additional cost for that. You can have a, you know, an e-collar or Elizabeth collar on there if you choose to. So, so it's really kind of a win-win again for a lot of people.
On here they also can get a Bordetella vaccination, which is kennel cough.
Right.
People that we refer to it as kennel cough, but
Correct.
its traditional name is Bordetella. They also can be treated for fleas, so that's the Revolution, and they also do microchipping.
Right.
So there's a lot that they can decide how much or how little they want to have done.
Folks can do that, and a veterinarian does call them previous to the surgery and talk to the owners. You know, once you sign up and you're paid, you're ready to rock and roll, then a veterinarian will call before that. And how it works, Cheryl, is that you have to sign up or register at least a week before the actual pickup.
Right.
Now,
your surgery must be paid the week before.
Right.
Your pet is scheduled to go to that surgery.
That is correct. And then during that week, the surgeon again the doctor will call the people and just talk to them about it and make sure that everybody's on board and they're comfortable with what they're doing and so on and so forth. So, I mean, it's really a great program, and there's several different drop-offs besides us, obviously, in the area.
I think there are a couple different drop-off locations that have been doing this for a number of years already.
Yep.
So this really isn't anything new.
It isn't.
No. I think it was this not originally started through the Maddie's Fund? Maddie's, I believe it is.
Yep, it's in
Maddie's
conjunction with the
Foundation.
Maddie's Fund, right, which is obviously a very, very large granting group that is about animal welfare and you know,
so
reducing
people could
pet
actually
overpopulation.
and so even the Spay Me, that's something they have a website. We'll have that information up, I'm sure, for people to you know, so they can check them out online, or they can call us here and talk about, you know, what is this program, how does that work, and get more information about it.
They also do feral cats, Cheryl.
Oh,
so you know, and there's a significant cost reduction for feral cats as compared to an owner pet. And the reason is they also recognize that obviously feral cats or outdoor cats add to the pet overpopulation. So and they will ear tip them. Like
so that would be in conjunction with like the what we refer to as the TrapNeuter Release.
Right, TrapNeuter Release, which is obviously something that we do here as well. We don't do it in the volume that they do, obviously, but we do it here for folks that live outside the city of Oshkosh, that we do have a TrapNeuter Release program that people can actually sign up for. Because again, we do recognize that the outdoor cats do add to the population, and you and I both know that if you know, in other words, if those animals are spayed and neutered, you reduce the number of animals that are born out there, and eventually that colony that people are supporting, because a lot of people do support outdoor colonies. A lot of people
are feeding outdoor cats.
They're feeding outdoor cats.
Whether we think they should be doing that or not.
Right.
They're going to do it.
They're going to do it, and you're never going to stop that. And so, you know, it's one of these situations where I believe it's a win-win, because the animals are altered, they receive vaccinations, they're treated, and they're re-released out to the same territory. And then again, the caregiver supports the colony by feeding them as they're always doing that.
I think there's two really important parts to the TrapNeuter Release. And the first one is that those animals have a caregiver, somebody who feeds them on a regular basis and looks over after them, and notices if there's new cats coming into the colony that need to be trapped and spayed or neutered and re-released. And the other one is that in the past, before TrapNeuter Release, a lot of times cats would be trapped, live trapped, and euthanized.
Right.
And it was found that when you remove a colony, because that's what you call a group of cats living outside a colony, when you totally remove a colony, what happens is there's just a new colony that moves in. And so by maintaining a colony that's already there, hopefully that colony will, as you said, eventually dwindle down to one or two
because
cats.
they're not reproducing.
They're not breeding.
Yeah, and so we recognize that as well, is that, you know, euthanasia is not the solution. You
No,
know, it really isn't the solution to the number of cats that are out of doors. You know, obviously spaying and neutering is the solution.
Well, and you know, Joni, I think quite a few weeks ago I gave you an article to read about, it's called the 70% compliance. And I thought it was very interesting that in order for us to see a true drop in the number of pets needing homes, there would have to be a 70% compliance. And what that would mean is in the city of Oshkosh, 70% of the cats and dogs owned in our area would have to be spayed or neutered before we would see a significant drop in the number of animals coming into the shelter needing our help, or the number of animals that are needing homes, whether they come into the shelter or not. So that's a pretty high number, 70%.
That is a very high number, and obviously it does make sense, though, if you think about it, again, from a shelter perspective. We have not seen numbers decrease in our area since we've been in this business. We've maintained, but a lot of that is due to the fact that we don't have a 70% compliance rate, you know, particularly with our cats. So it has a definite impact on the number of animals that are throughout the shelter, you know. So I think nationally, again, we have to think about that. You have to have 70% of the entire nation that is willing to spay and that will spay and neuter, you know, their animals, and so we will see, because 4 million animals a year should not have to die, Cheryl. You
just
know,
because there's not a home for them.
There's not a home for them, and the other side of that coin is that where do people get their animals? You know, we need to talk about that as well.
Less than 25% come from animal shelters.
Right.
People are still getting them from breeders, neighbor down the street, or my brother's cat had kittens, or I stopped at the, you know, took a ride on Sunday and we stopped at a farm and free kittens to a good home. So less than 25% of the animals that are currently in homes came from shelters. And we're hoping that people will change that and start utilizing when they're thinking adoption, that they think of shelters first, because
absolutely,
we have some wonderful, not just our shelter, but all shelters, have wonderful animals
and rescue groups
that have animals that are there for unknown circumstances.
Yeah, and I think that's, you talked about some of the myths that are out there, and there's no question that one of the biggest myths regarding shelters is there must be something wrong with those animals, because why else would they be at the shelter? And that is just so not true. I mean, you know that as well as I do. We have just phenomenal shelter animals. I mean, just wonderful, wonderful shelter animals. I mean, we hear time and time again stories over and over again. Best dog I ever had, best cat I ever had. You know, it's just a real common thing. It's a common thread throughout shelters.
Well, and it could be such a thing. The animal came to us because maybe the cat or dog wasn't a good match for the family that it was in. And I mean, so it doesn't mean that the animal is damaged goods.
No.
It just wasn't the right fit. And so a lot of times people can find that perfect match when they go to an animal shelter. And of course, to adopt from a shelter is a bargain. Because again, all of our animals are spayed and neutered. Dogs are heartworm tested. Cats are feline leukemia tested. We check them for parasites. I mean, I could just go on, all the things that we do for the animals. And when they're adopted out, it's such a minimal cost to the adopter.
I mean, it really is. I mean, if anybody wants a bang for their buck, come to our humane society, but go to a humane society. You know, because it really is true. I mean, there's just tremendous value here in a shelter. So, you know, it's just amazing, and people sometimes just don't think of shelters first. And I think there's another thing that obviously people will say, oh, I can't go in there. It's so hard. It's just so difficult. It's just, you know, and...
But if they don't go in there, who's going to adopt them?
Right.
You know,
yeah.
and it's, I think, and we've been in our building for 6 years now, and I think people are amazed when they come in that, wow, you know, the animals look happy. In fact, sometimes, you know, I think we tease that they maybe look too happy, that people, oh, they're happy here, we don't need to adopt them. But we understand that it is overwhelming.
Right.
But if the community doesn't step forward and adopt from shelters, we can't keep them forever.
And I think shelters also have to take, and maybe rescue groups, but I think shelters also have to take some responsibility. You know, sometimes we can, not us, because we, I don't mean to single us out, but obviously we try very hard to respond to people in an appropriate amount of time, but shelters also have to kind of open that up and embrace, you know, the number of people that come through, and a lot of times when people come to a shelter, they're very excited about getting a pet, and they want to do, you know, there's a sense of like, I want to do this as soon as possible.
I want to do it now.
Yeah, and so we try to accommodate as best we can, but again, there's a process that people need to go through. But I think even when people contact shelters or rescue groups, it's very important that we get back to people. You know, we have an obligation to that. I mean, if we want to place animals,
we want people to use us as a resource, but then we have to reciprocate and be open to them.
That's right.
So I think it's really important for our listening audience to know that shelters are a great resource. I know ours is. We have a lot of educational information. And now added to our repertoire, we have the Shelter from the Storm.
Right.
And if nothing else, people can call us and talk to us about it and find out, is this right for them? Is this something that they want to do? Or maybe once they really understand how important spaying and neutering is, they'll even contact their local veterinarian and find out, you know, maybe I can have it done locally, you know, and have my pet taken care of. I didn't know all these things that I needed to do to I didn't know that I was adding to the pet overpopulation problem. So hopefully, you know, people will continue to learn about the importance of spaying and neutering and the resource that we have here. And if they have any questions at all, to give our shelter a call, and we'll try to get them in the next direction.
I mean, we are here for people.
Yeah. So I think we've talked about just about everything that we can today for spaying and neutering and the importance of doing that. And so until next time,
happy tales to you.